Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I thought we would create another video. I've done a couple of journal pages, so this time I thought I would create a card. I have a piece of Pink Frog super smooth card 300 GSM and the measurements are 4 by 6 inches. And we had a lovely or I did. I enjoyed myself. Let me have a look. Let me just grab the card. I really enjoyed making this card where we did a bit of masking. It's a 1-layer card. So I thought we'd have another go at masking. Now, when you're masking, the most difficult thing is just deciding what you want at the foot, which image you would like to be right at the front. That's it. Because whatever image you put right at the front, everything else, once you mask that off, everything else goes behind. So I hope that makes sense. Did I get any copy of paper? No. Will this bit of scrap do? Yeah, that bit of scrap will do. Right. So what I thought I would do, I would use the wheelbarrow with some of the baubles, and the wheelbarrow was on stamp set TE14, The Wonder of Nature. So, do you know, I never seem to get the stamps out. I think I've already got out. No, that's not it. There we go. So I'm going to use Decorations TE18. So let's just grab that stamp set. I'm probably going to need more masks, but there you go. So we'll just take our acrylic block, and I'm going to use VersaFine Claire's Barley Blue and Grass Green. I've got both of these on my website, Barley Blue and Grass Green. And I'm going to, am I going to ink my board? Yes, I'm going to ink my bauble with the Barley Blue, and I'm going to add a little touch of the Grass Green, and then I'm just going to add the bauble just around about there. I think I'm just guessing, you know, there's no precise, I'm just deciding where I want the first bauble, and I just allow that to rest on there and give it a few moments, and I've got those beautiful colours on there. Then I've got a mask. Is that out of card or paper? I have a mask of the same little bauble. And then I'm going to, again, stamp with the Barley Blue. And with your Grass Green, sort of touch it in different areas each time. I'm then going to add this here, like so. So I've got one bauble behind the other. So the bauble I started with first is in the foreground. All right, I've got a bit of an itch there. Let me just check. So where's my, bear with me. I'm actually going, believe it or not, I was going to do that again, but what I'm going to do, let me just grab a little rubbishy brush. That's the worst brush ever. It's got glue on it. Don't want that one. Let's leave that to go in the bin because I've actually bought some different brushes. I'm going to see if I can just pick up this oil-based ink. and just fill in that area. Because sometimes I don't mind a white gap, but on this occasion I want the bauble, and it doesn't matter because I'm going to go in and add a little bit more dimension. That's better, much better. Right, clean that later. So I've now got the baubles, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to need 2 masks. So let's just use this scrap paper and let's just ink the stamp in the grass green. And I'm just going to need a couple of masks. Just grab my scissors. Like so. Let's just cut a second mask out. Should have had the mask ready, but I didn't. I thought, oh, I only need 1 mask. No, you don't, Tracy. Talking rubbish. So I'm going to place both masks on here, like so. And because they're both out of paper, it works quite nicely. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take my wheelbarrow. Let's take the wheelbarrow. Just grab a little bit of a larger acrylic block. And then I'm going to take Portobello VersaFine Clair ink. And we're going to give that a really good inking because the wheelbarrow has got quite dark areas. There we go. Then it's just deciding whether you want 1 or 2 wheelbarrows. So this is going to go behind the, oh, let's just stamp. And we nearly pressed it down then. I nearly committed. Right, let's just commit. Let's just press that down. And we've just got copier paper on there, so it's not too thick. So it's not going to cause a ridge. So just give that a few moments just to absorb onto the card, and especially with it being can't spit it out, with it being a detailed stamp, you want to make sure that you sort of give that time just to absorb on there. Can you tell my brain wasn't working then? No, of course it wasn't. Not working at all. Now, do I want, I've got a mask of the wheelbarrow, and I can then decide, do I want another wheelbarrow, which is great because you can use that sort of like a jigsaw piece. So what I'm going to do then is we need to place the bauble one on, like so. Then I'm going to place the wheelbarrow. and then I can stamp a second wheelbarrow. So again, the bauble remains in the front and everything else goes behind. There we go. So I've given that a really good inking, and the hardest bit is sort of deciding on the placement. So we shall just add this here. And again, this area here will be behind. So we can remove our little baubles, and the baubles remain in the front. I quite like the fun of it. So now we can place, and we need to do it again, place this over the top and the little mask here, and then let me just being very particular here. I'm just deciding whether I want the smaller baubles and the bigger one in there. Let me just grab my little bauble. Right, so you can tell my little brain is working overtime. So what I'm going to do now is place that mask there, place the masks down. The hardest bit is simply just deciding what you want. So then I'm going to grab my little touch of the grass green, and then I have got my mask over that, haven't I? You two can spend ages just faffing with your mask. So let's have that one coming down here. There we go. So just a nice little stamp here. You've got that many masks on, you can't tell. So now we've got the baubles just on here. Like you can see, we've got the 3 baubles, which we can add a little bit more dimension to. And then we'll place this one here, like so. And then we'll ink the bauble again. Let's just take those bauble masks out of the way. And you can stick your mask down, and obviously if you've got masking sheets. The only reason I don't use masking sheets whilst I am demoing is because I end up faffing, spending more time trying to pick the back off. So I don't want to do that. Let's have this one here, like so. There we go. So we can then place a little mask over the top of the bauble. And of of course, if you'd got half a brain, Tracy, you'd have put the wheelbarrow down first. Place this down. There we go. That's it. Then we'll take our barley blue again, and then the little bit of green. I like to add them sort of at different angles. I just find it more pleasing. And just give that a little bit of time just to absorb onto there. That's better. So I've got a couple of baubles just in the wheelbarrow, like you can see. Just love it. Makes me so happy. And then what I can do is I will know which foliage am I going to add. So let's grab a little bit of the holly and berries. I don't want berries, I don't want holly. Tracy can't make her mind up. Come on, Tracy. It's very hard, you know. I'm going to use the holly. Taxes my brain trying to decide what to use. I can't decide, that's the problem. So you want, no, you don't need that, but do you need the bauble masking over? So like I talk to you as if, you know, you're actually sitting right next to me. Let's add this one. Actually, I don't need that. I don't need the baubles, do I? Oh dear, poor woman. Right, so let's, now I just need this. I just need the wheelbarrow. And then I just need a bit of copy paper. Not that any of the copy paper is clean that I've got. There we go. And then I'm going to use the barley blue. And I'm going to use the grass green. And then I'm going to faff. Just thought I'd let you know before anybody moans. I'm going to add a little bit of holly. Just there. I'm just going to give that a little bit of time, just because it's a little bit of a silhouette stamp. There we go. It's got a little bit of holly in there. Now I want a little bit of holly in here, so I'm going to put the wheelbarrow down. Then going to put the little mask down. Just going to place that down and then add this one this way. Now obviously you don't have to mask off if you don't wish. You can literally just put the images on the top if you don't want to do any masking and you want the dimension. You don't have to do the masking. And the only reason I'm faffing is because I'm double checking everything. So and if you use masking sheets and they're completely down, edge to edge adhesive, then it's a lot easier for you. So let's grab that barley blue again. And let's grab the grass green. Just tap those on there. Let's place a little bit of that over there. There we go. And this is what I like about the masking, is that you just get a different look. Obviously, again, you can literally just stamp everything where you want it, and then whatever's in the foreground, you could cut that out and stamp it and layer it on top. There are always different ways to do things. But I just think the masking is fun. Just gives a different element. Let's just leave that there. Just gives a different element to the design. It does for me anyway. Let's place that down. Let's add a little bit more of the barley blue. Let's take the grass green and let's do some just here, like so. And you can see I always ink more than I actually need to ink. But that's because I never quite know how much I'm going to use. Let's leave you there. Honest, my poor little brain. You know, it's working overtime on this, you know. So then I'm going to take the barley blue again, a little bit of the grass green, let's just add that there. I did a video recently and I tried the barley blue. It might have been in, I can't remember which one now, and the Arctic, and I said, oh, the barley blue's a little bit greener. It isn't. It's because obviously it's got a bit of this grass green on it. What am I like? That's it. And then what we've got on the holly and berries, let's take, you've got the little holly and the little berries on their own, so you can use the little berry and you can actually, shall we use the holly? Let's use the holly. Tracy can't make her mind up, so let's just keep picking the stamps off. So there's a little bit of the barley blue, grass green, and I can just add a little bit of holly here. Let's add another one. And we can, I nearly went down then to the next bit, to this one, and not mask anything off. So we can then add a little bit of the holly there. Then you can remove your masks. You end up with just a lovely composition with your pots and everything else. It works really nicely. And what you can do, you can also, off your holly and berries, you can use the little berry on its own, and you can use that like a little bauble as well, because you can quite easily take a little bit of ink off there, and then you can just add a little, let me see if we can add that. Oh, what are you doing? just add that here. It's a good job this ink stays wet longer, because the amount of faffing I'm doing. There we go. So you can just add, want another one there. Shall we add that one in a bit more green? Just take a little bit of colour off there. And it's a good job that mask was there then. So you can just add them, just so that you've got like little baubles, and it just works quite nicely. And what we can do then, you've got these baubles here. So which ones are going to catch? So we'll use that one there. Use this one here. Like so. And then we can take our holly again. Let's move our masks because we can save them. Again, ink with the barley, whatever you call it. A little bit with the grass green. And then you can, oh, you see it now. You see, you need to concentrate, Tracy, because you need to cover the wheel up. There we go. And then just add. So you end up with sort of a one layer card, as in it's just all one layer. You've not got something else layered on the top. There we go. Let's move all this. There we go. So we can remove that. And now we want to add a little bit of shading just to lift that up a little bit. So let's grab our Distress Oxide ink and we'll add a little bit of shading. I've actually got a jar of water here. Wonders never cease. So I've got my Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide ink, and what you want to do now is add a little bit of definition and shading to our scene. So I've got a jar of water here. Let's pick up my kitchen roll so that we've got it at hand. Then we can pick this up and then we can, and what the shading does as well is, if you've not sort of perfectly masked anything, it really doesn't matter too much because it sort of disguises that. So let's just add a little bit of shading. And the wonderful thing obviously about the VersaFine Clairs is that that ink is not going to move. So you can go straight over because it just won't move. It's just wonderful. It's going to stay. And the water will not affect that. Just go round and add a little bit of shading. Now you're just doing this roughly initially, and then we can add a little bit more definition. So just go round it, sort of scribbling around it initially, and then you can just add a little bit more of the definition wherever we fancy. just to give a little bit, it just gives a little bit of depth. So what we're going to do then, you can either go in with your Distress Oxide, where you just literally go in with more of the colour, and this time you go in where the edges are. Let's grab a little bit more water. So it's the edges that have the darkness, and you can just blend that out. So it's those edges that sort of get the really dark grey. Because if you used a blue, then that would make anything blue melt into the background, and it wouldn't you wouldn't end up with any sort of depth or definition. And that's why we're using the grey just as like a contrast to everything else. Just spend a little bit of time just adding a little bit more depth. Just in certain areas, just so that it has a little bit more definition. Let's grab a little bit more water, and if it's too dark somewhere and you don't like it, obviously with the oxides you can move that out a little bit. Let me just show you that, just so that you can see. You can just then move that out, no problem at all. And when we add a little bit of shading, etc., it just starts to come to life. I'll leave those. Right, what I'm going to do now is just reach for whatever is easiest to add a little bit more dimension to these baubles. So I've got, well, for instance, I've got Salty Ocean on here, so we'll check that. Have we got any green? Let's try Cracked Pistachio. So I've got my jar of water. I've got no pencils at hand, and what I mean by that is I've closed the cupboards and there's a trolley in front of them, so I'm just going to make do with what I've got, but I'm not going to use that. I did buy myself some brushes, so I'm going to use one of the fine brushes. Which one did I use before? It might have been that one. Oh, I think it was finer than that. Oh, there it is. So fine, I can't see it. So I've got this really fine brush here. I've still got my kitchen roll on one side. And I'm going to pick up the Salty Ocean. And I'm just going to add a little bit more definition. Just with the Salty Ocean. Just going to bring those to life a little bit more. I keep trying to dip into my ink pad instead of the water. I'm going to add a little bit more definition. Now I'm going on to a permanent ink pad. Sorry, a permanent ink that I used. So it's absolutely fine. And I've been saying to you for ages, I need to buy a fine brush. I think I've been saying it, I don't know how long. Well, I finally bought a fine brush, and it's a game changer. Just having the fine brush, it really does help. So what I'm doing is I'm just adding a little bit of this Salty Ocean, just to give a little bit more depth to the design. Because my brush is so fine, it works really nicely. So I'm just enjoying myself, just adding a few more layers. But the card is still flat. I still haven't added any bulk or anything to. I'm just giving them a little bit more dimension, just with my little paintbrush, and you can see how fine that brush is. Oh, I should have got one of these fine brushes a long time ago. There you go. So just giving that a little bit of dimension. And it does actually make a difference, actually having a little bit of dimension from the Salty Ocean, just to give that a little bit more dimension, a little bit more life. And the good thing is you're not moving the colour underneath, it just remains there. And the wonderful thing about a fine paintbrush is you never pick up too much moisture, because the brush is so fine. It really is super fine. But I'm enjoying using the oxide so much that I'm actually going to come in again. Really enjoying sort of adding a little bit more depth over the top of the VersaFine Clair. In real life, it just makes the bauble stand out a little bit more. So shall we add a little bit of green, the cracked pistachio? Let's just rinse my brush. Take a little bit of that cracked pistachio. I'm just trying to show you that even when you haven't got much to hand, you really can do quite a bit with your projects and cards, etc. And you can add the dimension as well. Just with your ink pads. just to give the baubles a little bit more. I do like it when they've got a little bit more life. Honestly, this is the finest brush ever. It is so fine. There we go. Let's just take the cracked pistachio lid. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Distress Oxide, what's this called? Hickory Smoke. Do you like how I can't remember? And because I've got this really fine brush, I'm going to load the fine brush and I'm just going to add a little bit more depth, just around certain areas, just to give a little bit more depth. And with using that fine brush, I can just touch certain areas and just bring a little bit more depth. And I have to say, this is one of my favourite things to do, is just going around and touching things up and faffing a little bit. I do love doing this. But I did used to say in quite a few videos, oh, I do need a fine brush. And it was only because I was out the other day. I thought, ooh, I know what I need. And the great thing about the fine brush is none of the colour, the pigment or anything runs away from you because you're working with such fine brushes. There we go. Just love that. Let's just colour that in a little bit. The thing with me is I could do this just for hours. It's not very, you know, wonderful watching, but I could do it for hours. Okay. Let's just put that. And what I'm going to do is just give the card a little spritz with water. And the only reason I'm doing that is just to spread the oxide a little bit, just so that it's not too, it's a little bit softer. You soften the edges. It's only a spritz of water, but that just softens the edges a little bit. Right, so shall we grab a sentiment? So we'll go to our stamp TE18, and we've got the Happy Christmas or Celebrate the Season. Let's have Celebrate the Season. And I'm not going to dry my card. Now I want a really sort of dark brown. Or will the Portobello be? Actually, no, we'll use the Portobello. We'll use the Portobello. And when you turn your stamp over, just make sure it's not going to fall off the acrylic block onto your card. Stamp Celebrate the Season. Just give that a few moments. You don't need to press it down hard. You just need to give it a few moments just to sort of make the impression onto the surface of the card. And even though there's a little bit of moisture on there, that doesn't matter because we're using a permanent ink pad to stamp that with, which is Portobello. Just love that. Then I'm just going to add, where's the little berry? The berries from the holly and the berries. So now I've got a little berry on its own. And that's why I did it on its own. Just so that we can add little touches here and there. So the barley blue and the grass green. And then I'm just going to add, the thing is, because I've added the moisture to this card, it's just curling up a little bit. So I just want that on the end of the N. And of course, I nearly put my head in camera then. There we go. And again, just to give this, even faffing with this, just to give this a little bit more dimension, even that little bauble. I'm going to add, let's just take the moisture off the edge. And it's in real life that the details, it really matters. So it's just worthwhile just adding a little bit more of that detail. And we will again add some shading just around the little tiny bauble. But I'm just going to use a little touch of Inktense pencil. And I've got this little slim brush just to take a little bit off as well. Now, if you want to add a few even darker areas, for instance, just under the wheelbarrow, you can use a fine brush. And even with a fine brush, I still take the excess off. It's just a habit I get into. Okay. So we need a little bit of Inktense pencil just at the base here. The little touches just finish everything off. Just a little bit more darkness there. There we go. We'll just add a little bit here. Just to emphasize these little baubles a little bit more. There we go. And then the only place else is just under the wheels. Just give a little bit of, we need to give that a little bit of grounding. There we go. Let's give a little bit of grounding here. Just needs to be darker where those, you know, the wheels are. Just needs it to be a little bit. And then what we're going to do then is another of my favourite parts is just going in and adding those touches of white. Obviously, because we've stamped onto white card, you've got that white on there, but we've covered, let me rephrase that, I have covered some of that up. So we're just bringing some of that back in, just to give it a little bit of shine, and just add the little bits of white to the holly and berries. Again, just to lift the design a little bit. And especially if you've gone over with the grey. It just lifts everything just beautifully. It's just worthwhile spending a few moments just doing. There we go. The white really finishes it off. So we'll just add a few splatters. And in real life, you can actually see the dimension just from a one layer card that's got, let me just fold that, it's got no 3D elements on there. Now you do know I'm going to have to add a little beard, don't you? So let's just put the wheelbarrow back. Let's grab the little beard from TE12. There we go. So let's take TE12. And I'm going to stamp this with black ink. Your guess is as good as mine if the black ink is actually out. I actually tied it up before I started this, and here I am now with my desk a mess again. So where are you going to stamp your little beard? Think on the wheelbarrow. And again, because there's a few layers of ink, etc., I'm just going to give that a few moments just to absorb onto the surface. There we go. So we've got our little beard on there. Let's place you back. Don't know why I've put the Posca pen back. Ooh. We'll just add few little touches. Now I haven't heated the card to dry with any heat tool, but what I like, so this was 4 by 6, and I like to sort of add that to a 5 by 7 card just to show that off a little bit. And when it's white on white, it really, it's sort of, in real life, it pops. Especially if you've done the shading as well. Now I would add an insert if I send it to anybody, sort of in the family or friends or whatever. I would add a little insert. So let's take that and add, make sure your opening is going the right way. And you know why I'm saying that, because the amount of times made a card that's not the right way. Let's just pick that up. give it a few moments just to grab hold of that card, and just go round a few moments, just pressing the card down to make sure you've got that completely flat, because then posting will be so much cheaper. And then shall we add an insert? Let's add a little insert, which is quite easy to do because you don't need much on your insert. So again, I've got a piece of card that is 4x6 Pink Frog smooth card. We take the same little bauble, same colours, which was the barley blue, and then we'll just add a little bit of the green, the grass green. I'm just going to add this here, like so. Let's take our little mask, like so. Again, take that barley blue, the grass green, wipe the excess ink off because we just get into a habit. Just add this here. There we go. Then I'm going to take the Celebrate the Season. Just make sure my fingers are all clean. And then I'm going to use the Portobello. And I'm going to put just across there. Celebrate the Season. So I'll then just put sort of a light touch of shading at the bottom, and the ink that I've stamped the baubles in will not move. I think I need a thicker brush just to move that a little bit more. There we go. So you've then got your baubles on the inside. That could quite easily be a little notelet to say thank you, couldn't it? Quite easily. And obviously, if you want to make sure that it looks exactly the same as the front of the card, you can add a little bit of the Salty Ocean and just give a little bit more dimension to the bauble. Just so it has a little bit more depth. Let's pick that water up. It's just worth adding a little bit of dimension with a little bit of a darker colour. Just makes it pop a little bit more. And yes, it's a few extra minutes of work, but I don't think that matters. Let's pick this up. A little bit more water. I just think it makes a massive difference. Just to add that. And I think it's worth adding. And personally, what I would do now, just to finish it off nicely, and add an insert whilst you're doing your card, because you won't find it a chore then. If you do it when you're in a rush, you know, sort of December the 24th, there's nothing worse. You're in a rush, you're fed up because you're rushing. Do it whilst time isn't as precious because you're doing 150 other things at once. So just adding a little bit of debris there. There we go. Got a little bit of shading on there. And shall we just add a few little, let's use the smaller Posca pen for a few, there we go, smaller splatters. Now obviously you wouldn't try to add that to the inside of your card when it's soaking wet. So I'm not going to do that, but this will go in here like so, so that you've got the insert. I'll leave that to dry a bit, and then you have this as your focal image. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you've enjoyed the process and you'll give that a go. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.